Hello and welcome to Filling the Sink, a podcast from Catalan News. I'm Lorcan Doherty and today we're talking about elections. Again. Sun, sand and snap elections are the order of the day this summer. On July 23rd, Spain goes to the polls less than 2 months after local elections, in which Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's Socialist Party took a bit of a bruising. It's all to play for, with polls showing the top two parties, the Socialists and the People's Party, neck and neck. For the first time since Franco and the return of democracy, a far-right party, in the form of Vox, could form part of a coalition government. On the left, Sumar hoped to continue where Podemos left off as the junior party in a coalition with the Socialists. And after a term where Spain's minority government relied on votes from the likes of Esquerra to govern, pro-independence parties in Catalonia will be hoping to maximise their representation and influence over the next 4 years. Guifré Jordan is here with me. Hi, Guifré.
Hi, Lorcan.
Here we go again.
Yes, election again. Wow.
It seems like only 2 months we were here sitting chatting about the local elections.
Yeah,
because it was.
Exactly, it was. Yeah. Insane. But why not in the middle of a summer with, it's nice to have something to talk about.
So, the local elections are basically, the results of them is why Pedro Sanchez has called this general election, isn't it?
Absolutely. So they lost some very important mayorships and some regional governments too. There was some regional election too in some regions in Spain, not in Catalonia. Anyway, the socialists are going steadily down in the polls. Local election was like a wake-up call for them, probably. And although the Spanish election should have been called for November or December, they decided better do it now before waiting for them to drop in the polls even more. Okay,
so they've shifted it forward, about 6 months early. They've called this election. And as you said, it's at the end of July, which, is going to be quite weird. People going to the poll. People are normally on the beach, on holiday, out of the country.
Exactly. It's unprecedented. Absolutely unprecedented.
There was an election in 2016 in June, but even that, it's like July's different, isn't it?
July and late July. In this case, it's late July. It's literally in the middle of the summer. It's literally August would have been even worse, probably. But 23rd of July, that's very risky. Yeah. And we'll see some impact on turnout. I'm pretty sure turnout will be lower than average.
Only Spanish nationals can vote, so no vote for me this time around.
No vote. You were able to vote in the local election, not in the Spanish election. It's very straightforward. If you don't have the Spanish passport, you are not going to be able to vote. You're not going to be in the list.
Okay, and what are people voting for then?
So it's very important for people to know that this is not a presidential election. This is a parliamentary election. What's the difference? Well, we're not voting for who the prime minister will be or the president will be, let's say. We're just voting for our MPs, for our representatives in Congress and in the Senate, the lower and upper house of the Spanish parliament.
350 seats in Congress. So it's a PR system, a proportional representation, a closed list system it calls, which basically means that parties, for each constituency, parties have a list of candidates and you vote for that party of your choice. And, if they get 6 candidates, then it'll be the first 6 names on that list.
Exactly.
So you're not choosing an individual, basically, for Congress?
Not in Congress. I forgot to say that it's important for our listeners to know that while we are electing our MPs, our representatives, they will be the ones in Congress to find consensus to appoint a prime minister. So in an indirect way, we are electing a prime minister.
Parties need to gain at least 3% of votes cast in a particular constituency in order to have the possibility of gaining a seat. To give you an idea then, in Catalonia, there are 4 constituencies corresponding to 4 provinces. So we've got Barcelona, which is the biggest with 32 seats. And then we've got Girona and Tarragona, which have 6 seats each, and Lleida, which has 4. So in total, 48 MPs Catalonia are going to elect out of the 350 member chamber.
Yeah, so it's a relevant number. So it's, there's 48 MPs usually have a big influence in Spanish politics. Also important to know that when a party wins in a constituency, they don't get all the seats. Like the 32 seats in Barcelona, they don't get the 100% of seats.
Okay.
So if they got 20% of votes, they will get more or less 20% of this 32 seats.
They do some complicated maths, which is the D'Hondt method to work out how it's all divided.
It's impossible to explain this in an interesting way in a podcast, so we're not going to do it.
Okay, the important thing is the number of MPs elected per constituency matches the vote share more or less.
Exactly.
So who's who? I've mentioned some of the parties already. We've got the Socialists to start.
Exactly, with Pedro Sánchez, the incumbent prime minister who wants to be re-elected.
So socialists by name, not exactly socialist by nature, but on the left of the spectrum.
Yeah, they are social democrats, we can say. So they are not hoping to have a majority. They're not going to get an absolute majority, but what they want is to have enough seats to reach some deals with other left-wing parties and stay in power.
They're currently in government with another party to the left of them, Unidas Podemos. This time round, the equivalent party, if you like, which is a coalition of lots of smaller parties, is called Sumar.
Exactly.
So they'll be hoping to see the same success that they had in the last election in terms of maybe entering government again.
Exactly. Some of our listeners might have heard about Pablo Iglesias, the candidate of Unidas Podemos 4 years ago. Now it's Yolanda Díaz. She's like the main candidate of this kind of anti-austerity, far-left coalition, Sumar, let's say. And yeah, they hope to be the junior partner of the socialists. Yeah, we'll talk later about the polls. It's not that clear, but we'll see.
The other person who's hoping to end up as prime minister is Feijóo from the People's Party.
Yeah, Alberto Núñez Feijóo may have a chance to be prime minister. 4 years ago, we had Pablo Casado. Remember, the People's Party is like the typical conservative party that's like the mainstream right-wing party, basically. In terms of Catalonia, we haven't talked much about Catalonia for the left, but right-wing parties, especially the People's Party, they are hardliners against independence. Not that the socialists and some are pro-independence either, but they've got a milder stance against. The People's Party has like a very hardliner stance.
One of the big stories could be Vox. This is far-right party. They've done well in local elections, in regional elections, and they came third in the Spanish general elections last time around, but they've never entered into government in Spain. That could change.
Exactly. They've got the same face as the front runner, Santiago Abascal, and they hope to stay in third place, and they also hope to have enough seats to garner a majority as a junior partner with the People's Party.
So those four parties that we mentioned are going to end up as the top four parties across Spain. There are parties that are only standing in Catalonia, for example, which, you know, will take a significant amount of seats here. Pro-independence parties, Esquerra Republicana, Junts, and CUP. CUP's kind of, will they gain a seat or not? I think they had two last time out. So similarly, in places like the Basque Country, Galicia, you'll also get parties that, okay, they might not win that many seats on the grand scheme of things, but they, as we'll hear later, they can still play a key role.
Exactly. And two more things. Ciudadanos, some of you might remember this party, this unionist liberal party. They are not running in this election, so they've been plummeting in all the elections.
They finally said no more.
Exactly. So far, they still exist, but, well, we'll see. And we also have PDeCAT. They are like very mildly pro-independence party from Catalonia. They have some seats from the 2019 election, and they still want to have some representation.
Well, as I said, parties with fewer seats can play a crucial role in Congress, as witnessed in the last term. A lot has happened in the last 4 years, as Gerard and Emma have been reminiscing about.
Looking back to November 2019, we didn't even know what COVID was.
Yes, Spain had its first coalition government since democracy was restored, and in Catalonia there were riots over the verdict of the independent referendum trial.
Oh yeah, the riots. They feel very far away now.
That's true, but the day after the Spanish election was one of their peaks. Hundreds of people blocked Catalonia's main highway at the French border for 2 days. Outrage and 9 political leaders being convicted to a decade in jail for holding an independent referendum.
But it all died down soon afterwards, right?
Yes, their motto was Spain, sit and talk. And after some back and forth, that happened. In early February 2020, Pedro Sánchez and the then Catalan president Quim Torra met in Barcelona to tackle the independence issue. A few weeks later, the cabinets held a bilateral meeting in Madrid.
Those talks in early 2020 were the outcome of a deal between the socialist and left-wing pro-independence Esquerra.
Right, the socialists had struck a deal with the anti-austerity Unidas Podemos party to form a coalition government. But what actually enabled Pedro Sánchez to be sworn in again as Prime Minister were abstentions from Esquerra and the Basque pro-independence party EH Bildu. The Catalan party agreed to abstain in exchange for launching the talks. And actually, Esquerra has backed the socialists when they most badly needed it throughout this term.
And then the pandemic came.
It certainly did. Sánchez enforced a state of alarm on March 14, 2020, which lasted 3 months, calling a lockdown, taking over all key services in Catalonia, closing shops, schools, restaurants, museums, and other cultural venues.
In October, the Catalan government brought in a curfew. Measures were reintroduced in early 2021, and then in early 2022 with Omicron.
Crazy times, yes. There is a consensus the vaccine rollout went well in both Catalonia and across Spain, but also that benefit payments for temporary layoffs were chaotic. Sánchez's cabinet faced issues finding support for a new state of alarm. He managed to get it through Congress, but the Constitutional Court later said the measure had gone beyond the legal framework.
Despite everything, by mid-2021 we were almost back to business as usual. And for politics here, that means the Catalonia-Spain issue.
Indeed, shortly after the new Catalan government was formed under Per Aragonès, Pedro Sánchez announced pardons for the 9 jailed independence leaders. These partial pardons were enough for them to leave jail, but they were also prevented from running in an election for a decade.
That was a clear sign of a thaw between the Spanish and Catalan administrations.
Yes, and the Aragonès and Sánchez cabinets have held 2 meetings.
And here's where the criminal code reform comes in, right?
Yes, on January 12 this year, changes came into effect, which included scrapping the crime of sedition, the crime for which 9 independence leaders were jailed. This, together with some tweaks to the misuse of funds crime, forced the Supreme Court to lift the bans from public office for 5 of the individuals. Also, prison charges were dropped for 2 politicians still in exile, but not for all of them.
So there is a thaw, but what about Catalan Gate?
It's true that in April 2022, an investigation revealed that 65 figures linked to the independence movement had been spied on, most likely by Spain, using Pegasus software. Sánchez sacked his head of intelligence, but a lot of questions about it remain up in the air and relations between administrations soared for a while.
And what about the socialist relationship with their junior partner Unidas Podemos? Has it worked?
It has probably worked better than expected. There have not been any major crises, and the shared cabinet has remained quite strong throughout, including after Podemos leader Pablo Iglesias quit politics in May 2021. The biggest issue has been the sexual consent law. Brought forward by Podemos, it had an undesired effect, the reduction of sentences for many offenders. The socialists then decided to amend it, but found no consensus with their coalition partners, and instead gained support from the main opposition force, the People's Party.
And of course, this term has also been marked by the war in Ukraine.
Yes, inflation skyrocketed to over 10%, electricity bills increased sharply, as did fuel prices, and the fall in unemployment stopped. Some of the measures Sánchez put forward included free commuter trains and general discount for public transport and fuel, as well as VAT reduction on basic goods and electricity.
Well, these 4 years have been quite a ride. Time to decide who to vote for. Oh wait, elections are on July 23rd. I'm on holidays. I better get a mail-in vote.
Thanks to Emma and Gerard for that. Hopefully no pandemics break out during the next term, Guifré.
No, please.
What might the outcome be after this election?
Well, there are, I'd say, 2 reasonable outcomes. Let's say, on the one hand, the People's Party and Vox, so the right-wing bloc, have enough seats for a majority. In this event, Alberto Núñez Feijóo, the candidate for the People's Party, would probably be the prime minister, and Vox, the far right, as we said before, they may demand in exchange to be inside the government.
I mean, we should say that the Conservatives, the People's Party, haven't explicitly said that they would go into coalition with Vox, but evidence suggests
they have no alternative
Yeah.
if they want. So if they don't have a majority themselves, which, I mean, none of the polls say that, they will need someone else. And who can, lend them 20, 30 or 40 MPs, which could be the amount of MPs they need. Vox is the only party reasonably, that would do that. So.
And they have gone into coalition in regional governments as well,
Exactly.
including after the most recent election.
Exactly. And the other scenario could be the People's Party winning the election anyway. I don't really think the Socialists will win the election. I think in any case it would be the People's Party winning the election, but with not enough seats, I think the People's Party plus Vox to get a majority, which means that the left-wing bloc could have a chance, if they reach consensus between the Socialist Party and Sumar, like now more or less, plus some extra support from the opposition of very regional or pro-independent or small parties such as Esquerra, Junts, Bildu, which is like a left-wing pro-independence Basque party, also PNV. They usually are willing to play a role in Spain's governance.
That's the Basque National Party.
Exactly, right-wing, but still not friends with Vox, because Vox is like anti-nationalist party. So all these small parties could have a chance to be the kingmakers.
So 176 seats needed for a majority. Very unlikely, as you said, that any party gets anywhere close to that. Even two parties combined, it's looking, touch and go. Looking at the polls then, a recent one from the CIS, which is a Spanish government-funded polling and research institute, that may influence the figures.
Well, yeah.
But this is a poll published on Wednesday, July the 5th, and that has the People's Party as the biggest party, with 31.4% of the vote, and the Socialists just 0.2% behind, so very tight.
Absolutely. So the People's Party and Vox would not get a majority, and the Socialists and Sumar, the left-wing bloc, would not get a majority either, but they would be closer than the right-wingers. Probably the left-wing bloc would have more chances to stay in government.
The CIS poll is a bit of an outlier if you look at all the polls. Most polls are showing the PP as the biggest party by a little bit more of a distance and on the verge of gaining a majority along with Vox.
And actually, a lot of polls are saying that the People's Party and Vox will get a majority. So,
looking at Catalonia specifically then, that same poll has the Socialists storming ahead, winning 18 to 22 seats and coming first in all four constituencies. Like, to put it into context, last time around they won 12 seats, they came second behind Esquerra. Esquerra won 13 seats last time round, and this particular poll has them dropping to 5 or 7. But then, looking at another poll, Guifré, this time the CEO poll, which is a Catalan government-funded body that also does research, the results are quite different.
Yeah, the Socialists would still come first, between 16 and 18 seats out of the 48 in Catalonia, the 48 at stake in Catalonia. Esquerra would come second with 8 to 10, Junts third from between 7 to 9. The People's Party would go up. They got 2 in the past election. They would get 6 to 8.
So quite a big jump for them in terms of
absolutely. So
treble or quadruple the representation here in Catalonia.
Their vote share across Spain will go up. That's pretty clear. Some people will say, wow, the Socialists are winning by a landslide here in Catalonia. This same poll also offered some estimation on what would happen if a Catalan and not Spanish election would be held this weekend, let's say. Well, the results were a bit different because the Socialists and Esquerra were tied in first place. Is this a mistake? No, it's not a mistake. That means, again, as usual, some people may not know, but the behavior of voters in the Catalan and Spanish election in Catalonia is completely different.
So you might have basically pro-independence voters, say, voting tactically for the Socialists in the Spanish election?
Yes, that's what in Catalan we say vot útil, tactical voting, or useful
vote,
let's say. So some pro-independence people saying, look, I don't want the right-wing anti-independence party. So instead of voting a pro-independence party, I will vote for the main party in Spain that
has a chance of gaining the prime minister position. If we do end up with a People's Party Vox coalition in Madrid, what do you think the impact might be in Catalonia?
Well, it will have an impact because they will probably actively put forward policies against independence campaigners, let's say. For instance, they may want to further introduce Spanish in Catalan classrooms. So remember that the teaching language or the main teaching language in all schools of Catalonia is Catalan, but some people say that Spanish should have like a higher amount of hours or something like that. So the People's Party and Vox may put forward a new education law in order to grant that.
Which would be complicated because obviously education is a devolved power, so the Catalan government would have their say in that as well.
There would be an absolute clash, that's for sure. Some other demands of Catalonia, typical demands like seeing the train network, the commuter train network powers devolved to Catalonia. With the People's Party and Vox, this probably will not happen at all because they are not very fond of devolving any power. Another big issue that will happen if the People's Party and Vox govern is that this talks between Catalan and Spanish administrations will come to an end probably, so these talks will not happen. So, and this climate of calm that we have now in all the independence issue may end, and everything may be reignited again.
And speaking of things that could happen, we've had 2 elections so far this year. Might there be a third?
I don't know if you are talking about a Catalan election.
Well, I was thinking of, what happens if we get a completely hung parliament and no one is able to garner enough support to become prime minister.
Exactly. On the one hand, just a brief clarification, Catalan election is due for February 2025. And as for what you were saying, imagine that the People's Party and Vox do not get a majority and the left-wing bloc need absolutely all the small parties in order to garner a majority. I think that's very difficult, very difficult. For instance, I don't see the CUP, a far-left pro-independence Catalan party, to vote for a Spanish prime minister, whoever it is. If there's no majority, we will go indeed to a second election. Not in 2023, I think it'd be in early 2024, but this wouldn't be strange because it happened in the 2 last terms, in the 2019 term and in the 2015 term. So we've been repeating elections in the past 2 terms. So who knows?
Might see you back here.
Oh yeah, it'd be a pleasure.
Time now for our Catalan phrase. What's it this week, Guifré?
Tocar dos.
Tocar dos, to touch the 2.
Exactly. It doesn't make much sense in English, but here we go.
What does it mean?
Yeah, to touch the 2, tocar dos means to leave or even to flee, let's say.
Right.
So you can say that if Pedro Sánchez, the Spanish Prime Minister, loses this election, he's going to have to
touch the doors.
Tocar
touch the door.
Touch the 2 or tocar dos, exactly.
Tocar dos. And that's us for today. Thanks for joining me, Guifré.
Yeah, pleasure, Lorcan.
And I said, well, we might see you back here for the next election, which we might, but actually we're not going to hear you on too many podcasts from now on because you're moving on from Catalan news. Not going too far.
No, I'm just going 2 desks away, but I'm going to another department. So I'm very happy to say that I'm going to be head of data journalism at the Catalan News Agency, the Catalan speaking part of the business.
Well, we'll miss you very much here at Catalan News and on Filling the Sink. Thanks from all of us, and thanks for getting this podcast up and running as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I think that's part of my time as head of Catalan News. I think that's part of the legacy that I'm going to leave somehow. I think that's probably the most rewarding product that we do at Catalan News. That's a very nice project that we've done. Not me, like I've contributed like some other people, including you, Lorcan, from day one. And I think that's a beautiful project, and we are very happy. And personally, I'm very happy about the feedback that sometimes we've received from our listeners who are like very enthusiastic and about this very unique podcast at the end of the day, the English-speaking podcast on Catalonia. That's, I feel really comforted to see that I'm going, but the podcast is staying.
Well, I hope you keep listening.
Now and then, I will.
Well, thanks very much to you for listening today as well. We're back again next Saturday, as always, with another episode of Filling the Sink. Until then, from me, Lorcan Doherty, and all of us here at Catalan News, bye for now. Adeu.